An ominous October sky blankets Schellenberger Field for the Lynchburg women's soccer team's final regular season home game. This edition of D3 Soccer features a non-conference collision between a pair of flying foes. It's the Mary Washington Eagles taking on the Lynchburg Hornets. Hi, everybody. Evan Gates, Ethan Morotsky rocking with you on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network. And, Ethan, this is that span of the season. You know it's tough. You're going into the conference tournament, and every single game is going to be a battle. But Lynchburg has won just one of the last six, trying to get on the right trajectory ahead of next week.
Yeah, it's been a really rough stint for Lynchburg. Like you said, one of the last six taking victories. But we're in crunch time, like you talked about. It's the end of the season. You got a couple games left. Everybody's got a couple games left. And it just seems like every game has that much more pressure. So Lynchburg going to have to find whatever they have inside of themselves to be able to push themselves towards that playoff football that they're really trying to unlock in themselves.
Once we take a look at the team's stats, this is a Mary Washington team that no doubt is looking to go to the Capital, or rather the Coast to Coast Conference, formerly in the Capital Athletic Conference, and dominate that conference tournament. They were pre-ranked third in the preseason standings, but a record of 12-2-3 has propelled them to a really new height, and you see it on the screen. The offense doesn't lie. 13 clean sheets, just a very complete club.
Yeah, 19.2 shots per game for Mary Washington, so we really are expecting to see them just pepper shots towards the goal. So it's going to be a really fun offensive display for Mary Washington. For Lynchburg, I think what's going to be so important for them is that counterattack. You know that they're going to be on the offensive end quite a bit in this ball game, so if you can figure out a way when you get those interceptions, those key interceptions in the box, trying to find a way to send it forward to your best players like Madeline Boyce, trying to activate that counterattack.
Macy Landell, the player to watch for Mary Washington. She goes into this one with 9 goals and 9 assists. Ethan, starting all 54 games she's played in at Mary Washington, just a consistent piece up front, and she's really helped spearhead that attack.
Yeah, as a junior from Stafford, Virginia, to be able to start 54 games that you've played in, those are the best players that you want on your staff. And as a coach, you know that you're super excited to have her not only just for a couple years, but for her entire career. And with the numbers that she's been putting up this season, you can imagine she's going to be getting the ball a lot, and that's exactly why we're going to be looking at her.
And then for Lynchburg, Madeline Boyce, 2 goals and 2 assists on the year. She gets a goal in that last game, just looking to keep her involved in the attack.
Yeah, you're hoping that goal that she scored is just going to be a little bit of a jump start, a little bit of a motivation builder. Like we said, we're going into that playoff soccer and just trying to figure out something inside of the girls to get yourself in a good headspace going into the playoffs.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the last game. Lynchburg took on Bridgewater right here on Schellenberger Field. It ended up being a 4-1 victory for the opposing Eagles. The second straight game now that Lynchburg faces an Eagles crew, and you see some of the shots that they scored. They were not easy goals, Ethan. You got to feel like, while it is tough to regain confidence, you know Bridgewater earned that one.
Yeah, absolutely. A game-recognized game is the easiest way to put it, but after a performance like that from the other team, you got to clear it, have the memory of a goldfish, as Ted Lasso likes to say. You got to just be able to clear your mind. That game's over. No looking back at that. You're focused on Mary Washington. Don't focus on Hollins. Don't even focus on the ODAC playoffs. Focus on this ball game. Try and get a dub where this is a great Mary Washington team, 19 in the MPI. Trying to figure out something to get your team going before the playoffs.
So much to consider as we get set for action. A fresh 90 between Lynchburg and Mary Washington at Schellenberger Field. We'll be right back. Hornets and Eagles, another edition of Division III women's soccer right here on Schellenberger Field. But before we get started in this non-conference affair, got to take a look at the ODAC standings, and they are very important at this stage of the season. Just one more match day within conference play. Lynchburg right now in the 7th spot in the conference tournament with 13 points. But you feel like, Ethan, it doesn't matter where they're ranked. When they're in that top 8, they're ready to attack that final portion of the year.
Yeah, playoff time, anything can happen, and that's the best part, not only for every conference, but especially the ODAC. It's such a powerhouse in every sport, especially women's soccer. If when you were taking a look at the lower half from about 6 to 10, it's really a cluster down there. Every team has every bit of chance to push their way into that top 8 and make the ODAC tournament.
It's definitely crucial, and it's going to be a game today where it feels like a calibration affair. Lynchburg trying to get the ship right before they go into that conference tournament, but they've got a tough Mary Washington crew to face. Let's go ahead and set the starters. Lynchburg starters for today look very familiar to the last few games that we've seen here on Schellenberger Field. Some wrinkling in the picture. No Michaela Hargrove again, so Hannah Phillips re-enters the starting lineup, but a familiar 11, and Ethan, that's what you expect at this point of the season.
Yeah, again, it's crunch time. You're a couple games off from the tournament. You're putting out your best lineup. There's no more feeling out who's going to be able to make the starting lineup. Towards this end of the season, you already know the 11 you're going with, and you're going to stick to it.
Mary Washington goes out there with a club that is also consistent in their starting lineup from the year. Emily Orn between the pipes, actually a transfer from Richard Bland, where she was an all-conference performer last year, but it's the attack we've talked about already. Macy Landell, 9 goals on this season, and there are several other contributors on this Mary Washington team that have just scored at a high rate this year. In fact, 9 different Eagles have tallied multiple goals.
Yeah, I mean, recapping on Emily Orn, just being able to have such a great freshman year at Richard Bland, transfer in as a sophomore and just have the amazing stats that you have. A player like that on Mary Washington is maybe something all they needed to just kind of flip the script, and that's exactly what they've done this season, as they've done outstanding, especially the last couple games.
Coach Scott Gersony in his 7th season with Mary Washington won a conference title in his first season with the Eagles. That was back in 2019, members of the Capital Athletic Conference at the time. Now in the Coast to Coast Conference, it does bridge west to east across the states. But this one's in Lynchburg, Virginia. 90 minutes on the clock in this non-conference affair. And the Hornets and the home whites ready to get the party started as the referee signals, and a tap from Madeline Boyce has this thing underway. Obviously, defense is going to be a critical piece of the puzzle today for Lynchburg after giving up 4 goals last time out. A very uncharacteristic defensive night for Lynchburg. They're trying to get back on the right page, but as we said, Mary Washington's attack is so versatile as they go out wide. Wasting no time, now looking in the box, and Den Hartzog clears to the near side.
Just beautiful start for Mary Washington. You're at your best football when the passes are just flowing, and that's exactly what they've shown so far.
As we said, 9 different performers for the Eagles who have scored multiple goals this year, and it does feel like while Macy Landell receives much of the credit up front, it is a committee effort, and that's what you love to see at this stage of the season when you're trying to get everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. You go down the statistics of everybody on the team, and it seems like everybody is getting involved in the goals or assist category, and like you were talking about, that's beautiful, especially come this time of the year.
Mary Washington, a 12-2-3 club at this stage, and just to paint the picture of how good they've been this year, they beat number 3 CNU earlier in the year. Number 3 in the nation, a 1-0 affair. They've gotten wins against ODAC opponents like Bridgewater, who Lynchburg struggled with, and ultimately you see their play around the Commonwealth, around the area. They're not afraid to tackle any opponent.
Yeah, they've done a great job this year recapping the number 3 victory against CNU. That's a statement game that they made, and they haven't looked back ever since.
It's just been one of those affairs where it feels like every single time they go out there, they're ready to possess, ready to attack. That's what they've done in the early going here today. Lynchburg scheduled this game against Mary Washington as a non-conference affair late in the season just because you recognize strength of schedule matters when you're looking at the tournament committee trying to get everything ready to go. Obviously, the Hornets have struggled in ODAC play, not exactly matching the blueprint that they set forth, but games like these can really help your confidence. Beg your pardon on one of the earlier points. This Mary Washington team lost to Bridgewater. That was one of the only ODAC teams that they struggled against this year because Virginia Wesleyan was the team they earned a victory against a few days later, 2-0 in that affair. And we know Virginia Wesleyan right now is sitting at second in the conference, and they are ready to try and get an ODAC title of their own.
And you can't blame head coach Scott Gersney for scheduling those games. I mean, like we talked about earlier, the ODAC is a powerhouse, so being able to put a couple of ODAC victories on your schedule is always so key when it comes to the non-conference victories.
Eagles trying to advance. We've seen on this near side Katie Britton getting a lot of opportunities. It's a throw for the Eagles in the early going. Bridgewater struck against Lynchburg in the 3rd minute of that affair. Really changed the entire narrative the rest of the way. You're trying to get the car started and put pedal to the metal. It felt like the transmission failed early on for Lynchburg, a team that loves to try and get possession and have their handprint on the game. This is a dangerous ball looming in the box and trickles out on the near side.
A great job from Ava Olson. Almost a beautiful touch from Cassidy Shawn. And great job sticking with it, just being able to not let the attackers breathe.
Another approach, this time Macy Landau gives way to her teammate Ellen Shine, who's going to fire this one lofting. Shepard watches it into her gloves. Ellen Shine, 5 goals, 2 assists on the year. 5 goals are the most she's had in a season at Mary Washington.
And you got to credit the shot opportunity. Obviously, with a little bit of open space, you're pretty far out, but those are the shots that you dream of, and if they go in, I mean, the celebration would be there.
This is a Mary Washington team not afraid to shoot. They average 19 opportunities per game. Opponents average just north of 5. That tells you the disparity, especially when they can possess at a high level. Hannah Phillips has this ball tapped out. Mary Washington takes over.
And that's going to be the key for Lynchburg. Obviously, Mary Washington, majority of the beginning of this game, have dominated possession, but when you get it, you just got to find a way to pass it into open space. But that's really where Mary Washington's going to be doing, what they're going to be doing so well, is closing it down, not letting Lynchburg breathe, because if you don't let Lynchburg breathe, they're more prone to make mistakes, especially on the defensive end.
We know it can be so tricky, too. As we've talked about confidence for this Lynchburg team, it's a young defense. Think about somebody like Sammy Rogstad, who last year was the lone freshman on that back line. All of a sudden, she feels like a veteran in her sophomore season, and it's because she has so many fresh faces around her. This team is learning how to go through ODAC play and maneuver those troubles. Ball out wide to Britton. Isolation, and the Eagles continue to find openings. Shine inserts, and the Hornets have it taken away. Nice ball played forward from Boyce, but it's sniffed out this time. Both teams in the feel-out stage in the early minutes. Very overcast skies. It's rained throughout the day, but not exactly a downpour. Gotta expect that the turf is a little slick ahead of this one, and temperatures have dwindled down close to 50.
Fall time is officially here, Evan, and I can tell you with experience, playing on turf, on wet turf, where the turf's beads are getting into your shoes or they're sticking to your skin with all the water, I mean, that's tough, and I mean, that can really, really hurt your mental state and can cause some frustration down deep inside. So both these teams, they're going to have to find a way to kind of block that out, but it's going to be tough.
It can be a little awkward, especially when you saw the scenes from Saturday where Lynchburg played Bridgewater, and it was sunny skies, an earlier game, so a little bit warmer. And as we just touched on, so many of the freshmen and sophomores who haven't been in these spots before, yes, they've played in rainy games in high school, but it's just a little bit different when you're at crunch time of the collegiate season.
And obviously the ideal mindset of your coaching staff is you want to win now, but with players like Sammy Rogstad, who has just done so well, as not referee won't call a handball there, got a little bit of a touch, but it's just accidental. But you've got these players who were freshmen last year, and it's all about building it up, where she is a veteran as a sophomore, as a youngster, and that's something that is going to come in handy later on when you're recruiting other players, because she's been in that situation before.
You think about the layout of this Lynchburg team. If I told you that 80% of the senior class was starting this game, you would think that's a pretty absurd number. Well, there's only 5 seniors on the team, 4 of them starting in this game. Maddie Olson, Madeline Boyce, Zoe Villarreal, and then between the pipes, Kate Shepard. And when you look towards next season, yes, you're losing those 5 faces, but there are so many crucial pieces to this attack that are coming back. And I think Coach Olson and company would tell you that's where they've struggled this season, in that finishing department.
And to be able to be a team that, you know, you're lower in the table than you really want to, but you're still fighting for those spots. And obviously you're 50-50 with your ODAC games, but that just shows you that these youngsters, they're here to fight, and that gives you a lot of promise for future seasons.
And a lot of the games that have mattered near the top of the ODAC table, Lynchburg has been right there. They tied Virginia Wesleyan, had a 1-0 defeat against Washington and Lee, which right now those are your top 2 teams, and it felt like the Hornets were in it the entire way. This is another measuring stick game against a Mary Washington team that is inside the top 20 and the NPI rankings. That takes all the efficiency metrics into it. You know this team is complete, as the Hornets maybe take over possession in a dangerous spot, but Olson's pass goes awry, and now it's off to the races on the other side. Den Hartzog having to shield off Landell for the moment.
And the vision has definitely been there for the Hornets. Just a couple passes that a little short, a little too far, but it's definitely there, and that's something to look forward to if you're Coach Olson, where your team, the vision, they're doing everything that they can to score. But again, this is a great defense that you're going up against, so it's going to be tough, but there's a possibility here.
Several all-conference performers on this Mary Washington roster. Of course, Macy Landell, one of them, as this tap goes a little too far. Chance for Elise McGee to get in. But when you look up and down just this season, Mary Washington has really peppered those coast-to-coast conference accolades, and they have the reigning players of the week. Macy Landell was able to get one, and Amanda Dolan on the defense, who has started now 18 matches on the year. Villarreal, nice pass, weaving to the other side. Now Boyce trying to keep it in bounds, does so by a hair, and the cross taken away, and trots up that far side.
And there it is. I mean, that's the vision we've been talking about. They're not afraid to make these tough passes, and it was a great job by Madeline Boyce. Ball went a little too far, but she kept it in, and it's even better defense for Mary Washington.
Referee had a quick word with Katie Britton. It looks like one of the cones from practice were actually left on the field. Go ahead and add that to your bingo card. Don't see that all the time. Obviously on Mary Washington's side of the field too, so just a funny moment as we get set. Nobody's hurt, and we continue playing with under 34 minutes to go in the first half. No score yet. Evan Gates and Ethan Maratsky rocking with you on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network.
A muggy day here in the Hill City, but these conditions, at this point, you just got to have fun with it. You know, you're at the start of the season, it's really the ending of summertime, beginning of fall for women's soccer, so you're used to playing in the heat and maybe some rain too, but these conditions, you got to have fun with it and use it to your advantage, because you got to think both these teams are dealing with the same exact conditions.
It's a little bit easier in the fall season when you go from the warm weather to the cold, as Shepard's off her line to gather. Landell not quick enough to get her foot on it. You know, you think about having to practice and train all summer long in the 80s and 90s, and all of a sudden it feels like a nice relief when you have temperatures like these today that are in the lower 50s.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the temperature dropping, Evan.
I'm not either, but I do know that you are a baseball player and you had the opposite switch. You start in the 40s, you end at 110, and that's not always the most fun when you're going into the postseason.
Yeah, there were a couple games up in Harrisonburg playing at EMU where it actually started to snow and blizzard. And, it's fun at first because you don't typically play in the snow, but when when the cold starts to seep in to your jersey and it gets wet, you're just like, I've had enough of this. I need it to be summertime or springtime.
Spend 10 minutes looking for the base to keep going around the diamond. Morgan Oliver, nice play to get out of congestion. Beautiful ball forward. Hannah Phillips and the Hornets are in business. The cross, and no problem for Emily Orn. The sophomore transfer from Richard Bland, 16th start of the season and just a .53 goals against average. She's only allowed 7 goals this season. So as good as this Mary Washington attack has been, you got to give credit to the Eagles between the pipes.
And that's really why this team is so good. Obviously, yes, they have a great offense where everybody's contributing, but this defense is so locked down. And when you have a goalie as good as Orn, I mean, that just puts so much confidence in your back line to know that even if you do make a couple mistakes, you have a goalie as good as her right behind you to help you out.
I want to pose a question to you as well, because Orn is the only transfer you see in the starting lineup for Mary Washington. So the blueprint was pretty figured out from the last few years. How do you think that addition has helped the locker room and just adding a little bit of a different perspective?
Yeah, I think when you add that type of skill, and maybe she is helping in the locker room where, it could be a morale thing. There are so many things that go into it with transfers, and you can say the same thing about every sport where even just like a minor switch up in anything can cause a team to just bolster yourself up a couple rankings, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
If you look back at the last few years for Mary Washington, they've struggled to get back to that NCAA tournament. Last year, that was a loss to UC Santa Cruz in the first round of the conference tournament. Looking to go back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. Here's a chance for Sammy Rogstad, far side, and taken away, cleared on the far side. If you're just joining us and you heard, wait a second, they played UC Santa Cruz in the conference tournament, that's right. They're in the Coast to Coast Conference that features schools in both Virginia and California, one of the anomalies in the D3 climate. And luckily for Mary Washington this year, the conference tournament is held in Salisbury, but it rotates every few years, and you never know when you're going to be making that trip to California.
Sometimes players see that as this is pretty cool. We're going across like the conference coast to coast. We're going across the country to go play some soccer in California. This is something that almost nobody gets to do. It's a rare occasion. You just got to, again, have fun with it and enjoy that you're on this team doing amazing things and playing across the country in California.
When, of course, this year's conference tournament being in Maryland is a great location logistic, but this Mary Washington team wants to keep traveling. Their sites are not restricted to the next week, and they feel like they have the personnel to go out there and win the Coast to Coast. They got that win against CNU earlier in the year, perhaps a wake-up call for the captains, a team that started the year ranked in the top 5, have struggled since. Villarreal boots it to the other side of the field, and the Hornets might be able to take advantage in reversing. Pinballs its way forward, and now Madeline Boyce gives chase on the far side, but it's out for an Eagles throw.
And we've seen a lot of great stuff from Lynchburg. In the game, for the opening minutes, it was all Mary Washington, but Lynchburg, they're fighting right back. They're getting on that offensive end. We've seen great passes in the box, great through balls. Just, again, it's really that goal scoring and trying to get people into the box to just get across. I can maybe find some numbers and try and get you your first goal, your opening goal, which can just flip the script on this game.
And Ethan, we've only seen one shot so far today. Belongs to Mary Washington. That tells you how much of this game has been played in the midfield. Haven't seen a lot of long runs like this one as Hannah Phillips tries to go forward, and that has ultimately been the product. A lot of takeaways.
Yeah, I think the key to this ball game after watching the opening minutes is it's who can control the midfield, like you said. If you control the midfield, it allows you to open up and create space on the wings to send your wingers out forward, like exactly what we're seeing here with Phillips.
Great play from Hannah Phillips so far today. A lot of runs. This time a collision right at the goal line. Somehow stays on the green side of the turf. Now 2-on-1, and Mary Washington able to move the other way, but the referee calls time. Try to corroborate what unfolded, as that was a very physical sequence. Naomi Knight went down to the turf as Hannah Phillips was trying to do anything she could to possess.
And that's what you want to see on both sides when you have a player like Hannah Phillips who's going to do anything she can to keep the ball in Lynchburg's possession. But you've got a Mary Washington squad who all game, all season, they've not been afraid to get physical.
Coach Olson really praised the play of Hannah Phillips to start this year. Oh, here's a shot, a long one that just misses the crossbar. Almost buried it on the top shelf. Those are the opportunities you love to see. Ava Olson was not afraid to unfurl.
Just a beautiful shot. I mean, this is a game of inches, and you just missed that crossbar by maybe less than a foot, or 3/4 of a foot, and those are the shots that you love to see. We saw one from Mary Washington. That's just the second shot of the game, so one for each now, and a beautiful rip from Ava Olson, just missed it.
Well, one of the goals that you won't forget if you're a Hornets fan, Lynchburg on the road at Guilford. They get a 2-0 victory, and Grace Gaskins, the freshman, had a shot from about 25 yards out that ended up bouncing to the right side of the goal and in. And sometimes it pays to take those opportunities from far out.
Those are the goals you dream of, Evan. And again, if you get that much open space like Olson just had, why not rip it? Why not give us a shot of taking an early lead?
Mary Washington ready to insert set piece right at midfield and immediately denied. Lynchburg will love having the last shot because it feels like in a game where momentum hasn't gone either way, that's all it takes to swing things in your direction.
I think this what we're seeing right here from Mary Washington, Lynchburg has possession on their defensive end, but again, they're not letting them breathe. They're doing everything they can to get that ball back, and that type of pressure is something that can force a mistake as a foul on Mary Washington, and they're going to play it quick.
A little bit of extra pace. Hornets move down the field. The stylistic decisions in the game of soccer are so crucial. This was a Bridgewater team that Lynchburg faced on Saturday that ultimately every single throw inside the attacking third, they would park the bus, bring everybody forward, and see how many bodies they could get in the box. And you don't see a lot of teams do that. Well, sometimes that unique touch is the reason teams find success. Reversing the field in a hurry, and the Hornets have space. Zoe Villarreal, pass forward, sneaks through, but no problem again, as Emily Orn is right there.
Yeah, a little bit of a mishit from Naomi Knight from Mary Washington. A great job from Lynchburg taking the open space, and that's really what's going to define this team in this ball game is the space that Mary Washington's going to give you. You're not going to get much of it throughout the entire ball game. So if they do end up giving you that much room, you got to take it and go forward with everything you got.
You hit the nail on the head as Lauren Orner has found a little too much physicality from Ellen Shine. Coach Olson has talked about it here in the last few weeks. You got to take advantage of those opportunities. Even if you get a pocket of space, that might be enough to try and put a tally on the scoreboard. Lunadin Hartzog just beyond the midfield line, ready to pop one in close to the box. Looms right over, and a header will get it out of trouble for the moment.
I think some beautiful soccer we're seeing from Mary Washington is they're not afraid to take possession on these long passes and move a little bit back. I mean, sometimes you got to move backwards to go forward, and that's something that they've done really well this game.
Both teams have Been in a sparring match so far, nothing more, as no score and 2 combined shots have found the scoreboard in our first round of substitutions enter the game.
Yeah, we've seen a couple jabs at each other, but no real uppercuts, no real big hits in this ball game.
Will it be a game like Virginia Wesleyan where we didn't see one, or will it be like that Bridgewater affair where when it rains it pours? Several goals on your screen in that contest. Lynchburg entered Elise Pham and Riley Wampler to try and bolster some of the attack now, so you'll see what transpires. Maddie Olson stepped out of the game along with Hannah Phillips. Wampler in the midfield now trying to earn possession.
It's a beautiful job from Wampler. Just stay on the midfielder, stay with the ball, not let her breathe, don't give her any space, use your body to box out, and that's what Lynchburg has done so well in this ball game.
Pham offers the pass, almost had to take it away. And now the advancement. Morgan Oliver, that's the type of attention that she has received throughout this year. She had scored in Lynchburg's past 6 wins before the Guilford contest. So just an immediate, consistent contributor. And all of a sudden, it's been a little bit of a cold spell trying to get Seven and White involved, but she is always on the doorstep as this one trickles over the goal line for a goal kick.
And I think that's smart of other teams. Like you said, she had a really great stretch of games where she was scoring, and when you're that good and you're the other team looking at film or statistics, you're going to want to try and do everything you can to shut her down, double cover her. But if you're Lynchburg, you got to think to yourself, yes, they're going to cover her really well, but that's going to open up some space for somebody else. It's just finding who it is that is open.
And the majority of the season, that's been the million-dollar question for this Lynchburg team. So many attackers, a youth movement in that category, just haven't been able to figure it out yet. Here's Macy Landell. Look at the speedster go, trying to converge into the box, and it's out for a corner. Mary Washington gathered 14 of them in their last game, a season high, and by a pretty wide margin.
Definitely going to see some chaos in the box. This is what you're going to love to see if you're Mary Washington. I mean, you're already pulling 2 defenders towards the corner.
Playing it as if it's going short. This one loops in the box. Dangerous spot, a deflection right on the doorstep, and Kate Shepard down to the turf. Blink and you'll miss it. It was all sorts of trouble. Stephanie Reyes Chirinos also had a golden opportunity, but couldn't cleanly kick it in.
It was a great job by both teams. Again, Mary Washington just trying to cause as much chaos, as much pandemonium in the box, and those are the moments that if you can keep replicating that, keep going at it in the box, I mean, this is a good opportunity that they just had. If you can get another one, there's a good chance that it goes in, but a great job by Lynchburg defense to be able to snuff every opportunity out so far.
They brought everybody forward and still couldn't find the net. It's a good sequence for Lynchburg in terms of confidence. Ended up being a shot, by the way, by Layla Royster. Numbers for Mary Washington in big, bright white font. Tell you, we've seen a lot of different jerseys throughout the year, and the white on blue is a very welcome sign. Easier to spot.
Yeah, big numbers too. It can get tough in the far corners of the field to know who's doing what. So we definitely do. We'll have to give thanks to Mary Washington for that.
That's right. Surely they were thinking about us and their uniform design. Set piece will not find anything. Goes out untouched, and Kate Shepard has a goal kick.
It seems like for this Lynchburg team, obviously it's not the conference record you want, sitting around 500. But if you go back to some of these games, I mean, there's just a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 moments in every game where if it's a different outcome, I mean, this ODAC conference standings, it's so close that if you change one of these outcomes, it can flip everything around.
the middle of the conference has just gotten so much better in the last few years. You got to think with Lynchburg winning a national title, that brought a lot of attention to the ODAC as Landell tries to center the cross and not kicked cleanly by Layla Royster. She's going to want that one back.
A great run by Landell, beating both the defenders. A great job being able to get into the corner, drive in a beautiful pass to Royster. Just a little soft of a touch towards the goalie and an easy save for Kate Shepard.
It went right to her, as you saw in the replay. And fortunately for the Lynchburg defense, as you can tell, the speed of Macy Landell is such a difference maker. 3 substitutions now for Mary Washington. Abigail Knight is followed up with Taylor Garofalo and Sky Lawhoon.
And it's easy to say, well, if she's that fast and if she's causing so much chaos, why don't you double cover her like we were talking about for Lynchburg? If you double cover her, you're taking somebody away from their own person they're supposed to be marking. So like we were talking about for the Lynchburg end, when you're double covering players like Boyce, who have been doing so well, it opens up space for somebody. And with how well this Mary Washington team has been doing, they're good enough to find that open person.
You really don't have the luxury of time in this game, especially when you get to this part of the season where it's conference play, a lot of tricky opponents that have seen you year after year, especially with coaches like Dr. Todd Olson in his 32nd season. There aren't many secrets left. Morgan Oliver, middle of the field, now looking for options, tries to get the pass forward to a charging Boyce, unsuccessfully, and right down Main Street, Lynchburg continues. The ball forward to Elise Pham, turning up the tides as the cross is deflected. Chance not finished yet. Villarreal to the middle, and no problem on the escape. All of a sudden, chaos as everybody's out of position. Den Hartog wants to get it back for the Hornets. And Villarreal's pass will go over the near touchline.
Well, that's the beauty of the counterattack in soccer, is that when you're Lynchburg in this case, you've got a couple players making big plays, getting key interceptions, and they're all going forward. You're thinking, we'll get a card for one of the coaching staff of Mary Washington. But when you're on the counter, people around you, even defenders or midfielders, they're all thinking, I've got to go help, I've got to go forward. And like you said, it pulls everybody out of position. And that's the beauty. It causes chaos, and that's what we love to see.
This Lynchburg team has a lot of speed up front. Sometimes that can help them out. Yellow card assessed to Scott Gersony and company on this near sideline. Don't know what was said, but obviously the referee wasn't a friend of it, or wasn't a fan of it, rather. So we play on. No score yet between the Eagles and the Hornets. Just over 15 minutes to go in the first half. This is the final regular season game here on Schellenberger Field for this Lynchburg team. They play at Holland on Thursday, and then the ODAC tournament commences. Right now, it looks like Lynchburg will be going on the road, still situated in 7th. We'll try to get into all of that in the second half and the halftime discussion. And here is Grace Gaskins coming on for Madeline Boyce. Gaskins, as we said, had that big-time goal against Guilford, though it wasn't her first of the season. Her first collegiate goal was against Everett earlier on, so still searching for her first on Shelley. Villarreal inserts to Lauren Orner. Orner, someone who we haven't really called her name very often, but she is constantly a force for this Lynchburg team in the middle, and she really keeps all the other wheels spinning.
Someone like that is so important for your squad over the years, and somebody, like you said, keeps the wheel spinning, keeps the gears moving, and somebody that has that vision that she's had.
7 goals and 1 assist to her name, so not too shabby of a start. She is now tapped out to Villarreal, disrupted momentarily. Mary Washington in a span of 7 straight games where they have absolutely dominated. Just about everybody in their path not only has lost, but hasn't scored. It's been 7 straight games, 7 straight victories. And then when you go down into the stat sheet, they haven't allowed a single goal since the beginning of October. You got to go all the way back to the first day.
And if you're Lynchburg looking at that, obviously you've had your struggles pretty much the opposite of what Mary Washington has had these last 6 or 7 games. It's really tough it's easy to look at that and say, well, this is going to be a tough game no matter what we do. But if you're Lynchburg, this is a get-right game for you, especially like we've mentioned so many times this broadcast, as the playoffs are really looming on every single team in the middle of the pack to the bottom of the table. This is a really important game because if you can come out with a victory with how well you've been doing, as there's a foul on Mary Washington, a yellow card issued, but these are games where if you can pull out the victory, that's a statement win where you just beat one of the better teams in the country and you're ready for playoff soccer.
38 assists on 39 goals for Mary Washington as well. And you could tell when Macy Landell got off to the races, you understand why. They have the speedsters out wide, a lot of crosses will find the right person. But Lynchburg trying to end the scoreless streak for all of the Eagles' opponents.
Beautiful touch from Zoe Villarreal.
That's experience on display. So the ball goes all the way back to Orne. I mean, I think we could try 100 times. We won't get that one.
Yeah, that's like you said, the experience showing out on the soccer pitch.
Opponents of Mary Washington this year have scored 7 times. Lynchburg trying to add an 8th. And you recognize in a game like this, not only do you have to be almost perfect on the offensive side to get that goal, but you also can't allow one. The Eagles still pondering.
I think it's easy to say that Mary Washington, their motto is really just simple. It's defense wins championships.
Ball played close to the middle. Morgan Oliver just couldn't have the entry on the other side.
They're really being hounded by this defense. We're seeing great stuff from both these squads. Lynchburg, they've been doing a lot on the offensive end. Again, it's just trying to find a way to convert, trying to get past this amazing defense.
Well, they've done well when moving and passing straight down the field. A lot of that one-on-one play, like we just saw, hasn't been perfect. Morgan Oliver, once again, had a lot of attention around her and physicality all throughout the midfield. Now looping ball for Pham to try to catch up to, and it's a throw for the Eagles with just over 11 minutes to play. That's in the first half. Substitute now for Mary Washington, Gloria Abiasi, freshman forward from Round Hill, Virginia. 3 goals on the year.
And these late substitutions in this first half are so huge because these are fresh legs going onto the pitch. So these are some fast legs too, and these are the type of players where you can send them on a run on a tired defense from Lynchburg or Mary Washington.
Especially for somebody like Abiasi who hasn't had a single start this year. Our freshman campaign still very impactful.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can look at it as a player and say, well, I'm not starting, I don't have an impact, but these bench players, I mean, you can argue that some of them have an even bigger impact than some of the starters. I mean, to be able to be a first choice off the bench, like I said, as fresh legs to come onto the pitch and just try and change up the tempo to what Mary Washington wanted at the start of this game. I mean, that is just as impactful as a starter.
Well, we've seen times even earlier in the season here at Schellenberger Field where a lot of the substitutes are particularly coming off the bench just to add speed. That's a brilliant move, but a poor shot from Royster. Stayed right on the turf. And now Lynchburg runs into trouble on the far side. A traffic jam all around the midfield, and the Eagles have themselves a set piece.
Now, last time Mary Washington had a set piece, it was that corner earlier around the middle of this half. And there was a lot of chaos in the box. We imagine, we'll be seeing the exact same thing.
This Lynchburg team has looked really good in the free run of play. We'll see if they can defend the set piece. Loops out wide. Now a few bounces towards the side. Naomi Knight battling And Ava Olson has to watch it roll over the goal line. Corner for Mary Washington.
Great defense from Lynchburg, not letting them breathe. You stop a little bit of the momentum at the beginning of the set piece, but just an even better job for Mary Washington. Again, they're doing so well boxing out this Lynchburg defense and the offense.
See if this chance comes to fruition. Line drive to the far side. Taken away. And here is a very benign opportunity that goes to waste. Kate Shepard will have the ball in her hands. 8:30 to go in the first half.
This Lynchburg team showing a ton of promise. And again, you look at the schedule and how well Mary Washington is number 19 on the MPI polls, and you can easily look at that and bow out and just say, well, let's just try and keep it close. No, Lynchburg's going for the kill. They're trying to show exactly what type of soccer they can play.
Well, the problem with the ODAC this year is there are so many teams in the NPI rankings that are inside that top 50, top 100, but they aren't receiving that credit as some of the others just because everybody is beating up on one another. That's been the type of conference we've seen, and this is the first non-conference affair for Lynchburg since facing Marymount on September 27th. So an entire month of really seeing the same faces and get a little bit of a fresh slate today.
Yeah, I think that's what's so good for Mary Washington is that they've played so many ODAC teams that, I mean, that's something that coaches and the MPI polls look at as, I mean, that's good for them. I mean, they're playing a really tough non-conference schedule.
Goal kick for Lynchburg, and it's a very large non-conference slate for Mary Washington simply because there aren't a lot of members of the Coast to Coast Conference, and then you got to factor in a few of them are on the Pacific Coast. So ODAC opponents are readily available, especially for teams like Lynchburg who don't play a conference game on that particular day. All the other teams in action tomorrow. We'll take a look at that at halftime and then some, trying to explore the ODAC picture because there's a lot to decipher. This could be a costly turnover now. Mary Washington off to the races, middle of the field. Garofalo dishes out to the far side. Abby Acey immediately getting heckled by Den Hartog, but it results in a corner.
You can definitely notice some fatigue from this Lynchburg side as you have Elise Pham just a pass a little too far wide, and it forces a turnover and causes a small counterattack for Mary Washington, and now they're in a really great spot with a corner.
Third corner of the day for the Eagles. Lofted by Landell, going near post. Dangerous spot. Hornets get the tap. Now Elise Pham trying to evade trouble. It stays right in the box. A tough ricochet for corner number 4.
A lot of the defense in these situations where it is a packed box, it can be a little reckless where it's all about just throwing bodies at the ball and when you see somebody going up to shoot, but again, that can cause some open pockets too.
Similar spot and taken away. And this time will be a goal kick. Macy Landell putting it on a dot right on that corner of the inside box. So Shepard lines this one up. Back and forth we go. Mary Washington owns the advantage 3-1 in the shots department and four corners to none for Lynchburg. That's part of the equation that the Hornets have loved to have throughout the year. They enjoy their set pieces. Haven't had many tonight. Royster trying to get fancy with the footwork. Maybe a second chance. Dishing away as the Eagles are on the prowl. And a collision that will set it up in a really good spot for Mary Washington. Just yards outside of that 18-yard box. And all of a sudden the Hornets going to have to be very stout defensively.
And this is, like you said, this is a dangerous spot. The two of the shots we've seen, the two first shots we saw were in areas like this, pretty far out. But I mean, this is dangerous. I mean, we could see something. We could see something go in here.
So where Landell aims, it's going to the left side, and Shepard gonna leave her paws off this one, and smartly so. It was an absolute laser, trying to go and perhaps go upper 90.
It's tough to see from up here, Evan, how close that was, even in the replays that we've been getting a great job from the crew. But again, it's tough to see up here, and for goalies in soccer to have that real internal clock, that internal feeling, knowing where the goalposts are and knowing what to let go. I mean, that's a skill that, it's really tough, and that's so important for goalies.
Goes down to the reps and just the countless practices where you can't necessarily be coached that. The same goes for finishing. Coach Olson has talked about it throughout the year. There's only so much that you can do as a coach to prepare your offense. You can get the set looks and the opportunities, but when the player's in front of the goal, it's all about ability and finishing in the big spot. As this time the ball rolls all the way close to the goal line and over for a goal kick.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what the coaching staff is for, obviously, to help you, get that down in your memory, in your head of certain plays, certain opportunities, certain passes to make. But in all reality, in all realness, it's all about the striker. The coaches can't score it for you, and to be able to have someone like that who just sees that red in their eyes when they have the ball in front of net where they want to score. I mean, that's a talent that it's easy to say that you have, but it's harder to prove exactly what that is.
Never one size fits all, and that's the game of soccer. Always trying to innovate and figure out what works. Knight, a tap back to Anderson. This time it'll roll all the way to Shepard. This is really when you don't want to concede a goal here in the final few minutes of the first half. It's been a very productive 43 minutes so far for both squads. We haven't seen any tallies on the board. Gaskins did what she could and still maneuvering forward as this Eagles offense.
These are really two of the most important minutes of the ball game, not only because it's the end of the half, but because if Mary Washington or Lynchburg can muster up a goal, that just changes so much going into that halftime huddle and even the beginning minutes of the second half.
Lynchburg's confidence is a lot higher when it's 0-0 on the scoreline, as they have scored first in all 9 of their wins this year. You see more physicality. It is all over the field, and you got to expect the same in the second 45 minutes.
And again, that's the way Mary Washington, that's the way they play the game. They play a physical style of soccer, and they're not afraid to put their bodies on the line. And if you're Lynchburg, you got to accept that and kind of give it right back to them. Obviously not too much because you don't want to get a booking, but you got to give it right back and show that you're physical too.
Got to make sure your opponents know you're in the fight, as it'll be a throw for the Hornets inside the final minute. How quickly do they want to go? Perhaps a set piece. Ball inching forward. And the problem right now for Lynchburg, just no outlets, as this Eagles defense has shown us exactly what we expected. A team that has posted 7 consecutive clean sheets. They are just relentless. Going to take an extraordinary effort for Lynchburg to get one on the board, but the same can be said for this Hornets defense. They've been good so far. They're going to have to be even better in that second half. As the ball rolls over that far side, looks like both teams are content to leave this one where it's at. 45 minutes in the books. No score so far. And still a lot to unpack. We'll come back on the halftime show to talk a little bit about the ODAC table, games played elsewhere tomorrow, and highlight some of the action from this affair. But we'll be back on Schellenberger Field. It's 0-0 between Lynchburg and Mary Washington. No score through 45 minutes. Mary Washington and Lynchburg doing battle in the Hill City, and it has been a very defensive, very physical affair. You see the shot from Ava Olson that was just a notch over the crossbar. Probably the best opportunity of the day for Lynchburg, and the Mary Washington started to pepper the corner kicks late in the half. But Ethan, you feel like these two teams, they battled so long. The Eagles have had opportunities, but neither team really gaining full momentum.
Yeah, I really love the style of football we're seeing from both of these teams. At the beginning of the first half, it was all Mary Washington, and then it was all Lynchburg after that. We saw a little bit of 50-50 play around that midfield area, but it has been a very close, like you said, a physical style of play that Mary Washington has been given Lynchburg. But, I mean, this game, as of right now, I don't see any clear team that is doing better than the other. I see both these teams are giving it all, and one opportunity can lead to a goal for either one of them.
Ironically, with all the physical play, the only yellow card belongs to Mary Washington's coach, Scott Gersony. Had a few words with the referee in the middle of the first half. But it has been a very clean physical style of play, and you feel like as a coaching staff, you appreciate it. Let's take a look at those halftime stats, and as we've said so many times, after 45 minutes here in the Hill City, they won't tell you much offensively. Mary Washington starting to get the lion's share of corners, but again, back and forth play, transition style, and, you know, it's more about a possession stat than anything else.
Yeah, a majority of their corners came towards the end of that the first half, where they were putting a lot of pressure on Lynchburg towards the end, and it led to a couple of corners, a lot of chaos, craziness in the box, but no goals scored for either of these teams. So we honestly expect the same thing from both these squads. It's going to be exciting to see how these teams are going to respond to each other.
Let's take another look at the ODAC standings, because we did promise we're going to try and uncover this picture as best as possible. So you see right now on your screen is the top 10 teams in the ODAC. The top 8 will go to the ODAC tournament. So EMU with 12 points right now and Randolph with 9. That is that cutoff. So Randolph needs a win in their final conference match if they want to make the tournament. But if that doesn't happen, the top 8 are solidified. Lynchburg on that 7 line would play Virginia Wesleyan on the 2, and that would be a road game at Virginia Beach. Ethan, that's a tough affair, but you do realize that was a tie in the regular season. Lynchburg feels confident to play anybody.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for anybody in the playoffs. When it comes to crunch time, every single team is going to give it their all, and Lynchburg, with the game that they're playing right now against Mary Washington, this is an upside. I mean, this is great to see your team fighting against one of the top teams, not only on the coast to coast, but in the country. And then you've got a game against Hollins next where it can be a get-right game, getting you ready for the playoffs, giving you some confidence. Obviously, it's never going to be easy, but this Lynchburg team, I think they've got a really good setup for the end of the year regular season. So we hope that we can see Lynchburg take advantage of the opportunities they've been given.
Let's take a look at the games tomorrow, because this is the only game involving an ODAC team on this Tuesday evening. The rest of play will be all within the conference. The only one not listed is Roanoke against Sweetbriar, but you see the 4 other games in the ODAC tomorrow. Virginia Wesleyan takes on Randolph. That one in particular, as we said, could have some implications. If the Marlins win, they solidify that 2nd spot, and if Randolph loses, they are out of the ODAC tournament. But perhaps the biggest one in the middle of the table will be Bridgewater taking on Randolph-Macon. Right now, Randolph-Macon is a 3 seed. Bridgewater is a 5. And, you know, if they slip, you might see that matchup again in the ODAC tournament.
And this is the beauty of the ODAC conference in general. I mean, every single team is going to compete for everything. And this is what has been so great this year, is that middle of the pack, lower part of the table is such a switch up, where if one team wins and another one loses, it can switch up 2 to 3, 4 teams, and that's the beauty of ODAC soccer, and it's something that a lot of teams are really hoping for going towards that end half, heading into that playoffs.
So much to discover. That's why we play the game, and that's why we're getting set for our second 45 minutes. The first half evaporated in a hurry. Not much to see on the scoreboard, but you do feel like these two teams have completed the feel-out period. Now it's all about getting the offense engaged. And a little bit quicker style of play. That's something you talked about in the first half, Ethan. It felt like Lynchburg was starting to get a little fatigued at the end of the 45 minutes, and when you're running that hard, you understand why.
Yeah, it's tough facing a team as good as Mary Washington, where you have to put a little bit of extra oomph into your counterattack, your runs on the outside, and so it can cause more fatigue. But that's really where the subs come into play.
Madeline Boyce not going to be able to catch up to this one over the goal line for a goal kick. The substitutes so strategic. Both teams plugged and chugged throughout that first half, but it wasn't a very meteoric moment. You felt like those subs kind of came in fluidly and didn't, in a hurry, I guess you could say, impact the game. And we'll see if one of the substitutes are the ones to perhaps put a goal on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why they're so commonly called super subs, because they come on the field and instantly make an impact and can just flip the script of any ball game.
As advertised, Mary Washington's Macy Landell, probably the most impactful offensive performer today. Plays out wide for Mary Washington, right now situated middle of the field, which is where Sammy Rogstad goes to the turf and earns the set piece. We'll see if the Eagles have any tricks up their sleeves. 7 straight clean sheets. You got to understand they've done something right, but most of that is just purely defensive. Aren't a lot of tricks or secrets to that. It's just about being stout and staying physical. Lindenton Hartog, the set piece, looping to the outside of the box. Wampler went down a little too easily that time. Here's Morgan Oliver, doubled once again and loses possession right away.
And like you said, we saw another double team on Oliver, and if you're Lynchburg, you got to find a way to exploit that. Again, like we mentioned in the first half, is that one we called a foul on Mary Washington. They're really upset about it on the sidelines, but you got to find a way to exploit the double coverage. There's going to be someone open up front. It's just being able to find that player up front to maybe get him just a better shot on goal.
And Hartog, once again, another set piece headed out. Second opportunity, and a bounce into the hands of Warren. And easier said than done, trying to find those other contributors, because Morgan Oliver had one of the most red-hot starts we've seen from a Hornet in quite some time. Go back to last year, Madeline Boyce was the only Hornet in double figures for goals, and the way that Oliver was scoring, we expected her to have 15 or so by the end of the year. And all of a sudden, it's been a plateau at the 8-goal mark, which, again, I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's just the defense is really taking notice. Here's a nice ball played forward. Elise Pham can't get there. Gets it upon second reference. Now a chance to go the other side of the field. Nifty pass to Rogstad, who has fresh turf ahead. Trying to converge at the box, goes to the goal line, open space. Here's the cross. Took a disruption, and now Mary Washington can breathe a little extra before the second resurgence. Ooh, that was one of those moments you just felt like Lynchburg had it materializing.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity, great build-up play. Again, a beautiful pass, and we'll see it again. A lot of open space being taken.
Rogstad out to Boyce, trying to get there on the goal line and watches it go over the line. Coach Olson having a few words, and that's a run where you feel like you're trying to have your head on a swivel, but also locate the best path to get to the goal.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of a banana angle from Boyce to try and, like you said, get an angle on goal just in case you take a look and there's nobody in the box that you can pass to. And we saw Coach Olson on the side kind of telling her, you know, in those opportunities where you haven't had much success inside the box, just take more of a linear angle, go sharp towards the ball, and, I mean, just cross it into the box, pass in the box, and pray that somebody's there.
We've talked about it earlier in the season, a high school state champion for track and field, and you know she has that speed, especially on the outside, somewhere where Lynchburg has really utilized a lot of its talent. The problem, or rather you could say the question for Lynchburg, is how can they make sure that the ball finds the back of the net off of those opportunities? Madeline Boyce has been in several positions throughout her Hornets career, notably up top. That's why you saw a larger number of goals last year. This time a little more on the wing, 2 goals, 2 assists. Had that goal last time out against Bridgewater. which at the time equalized to make it 1-1, but Bridgewater would win that game 4-1. And Hartog, kick forward. Once again, Morgan Oliver right in the middle of the action. Eagles want to stretch things out. Now a ball played forward. Chance for Cassidy Shaw to catch up, and Rogstad gets it away. Promising few minutes from Lynchburg, still no score as we've entered the second half. Mary Washington trying to prepare its first real attack here in the second 45 minutes. Here's Ellen Shine ready to fire, and it took a disruption. Right away, Shepard knows what to do, the transition to the other side. Rogstad, and she heard her coach on the sideline saying, play it. Maybe a whisper too late.
Yeah, it was a great idea. Again, they've really been favoring this left side, Lynchburg has. And, I mean, they've been getting some great opportunities getting towards the box on some deep runs, but just trying to find that open space. And it's just so tough with a defense as good as Mary Washington.
The headers they get, the timely bounces, all ends up working out. Now Den Hartog trying to fend off Layla Royster. And the tap too weak. Here comes Mary Washington outside. Cassidy Shaw, the cross, going to take a bounce, but in the wrong spot as Fulmer got her foot on it. Once again, Lynchburg a little too quick. Great tackle from Morgan Oliver. Now Riley Wampler wants to slow things down. We'll keep possession here on the near side. The Hornets 3-0-2, and the all-time series, that dates back to 2001. So the meetings have been very sporadic, but routine in the last few years as the series has been renewed. Neither team has eclipsed the 2-goal mark in any of those 5 meetings, so all of them very defensive.
You talk about how they've had meetings since 2001 and how they've been spread out. I think this is a great idea for both these coaching staffs. Obviously, you want a tough out-of-conference schedule, and to host this one this late in the season with a team that is as good as Mary Washington and a Lynchburg team that has historically been fantastic the last couple decades. I mean, this is really smart for both these squads to play a game like this late in the season.
Got to be careful here. Den Hartog clears it out of the box. And every single year since the turn of the century, and this is excluding the COVID season that was shortened, Lynchburg has gotten to 10 wins. They're at 9 on the season, and they need just one more. Even if they can't get it today, they have a chance against Hollins. That'll be on Thursday on the road at 3 o'clock. The only conference matchup. Everybody else playing on that Wednesday, so a busy week ahead of the ODAC tournament. Elise Pham with the header, and here comes Madeline Boyce giving chase. Paterio was there. All of a sudden, these little openings, Lynchburg starting to find. Can they get a ball into the box? Cause a little bit of havoc. Won't happen this time. Warner's pass too strong.
Elise Pham has been absolutely outstanding in this contest. I mean, she's giving it her all on the right wing, the left wing, up the middle. She's all over the place, and she has just really done a great job.
Another one of those bench players that Coach Olson has talked about at length. Pham and Tegan Casey, another player who plays up top, gets a lot of minutes. Ball goes back to Lawhoon. This was not a game of checkers for very long. The chess match has been on for quite some time, and evidently, because it's 0-0 on the scoreboard, you feel like that one goal is the game winner. Just a question of who's going to get it. Almost collision. Middle of the field, Boyce was there quickly, but now here come the Eagles. Natalie Anderson sends it the other way.
And going back to your thought about you really got to think that that first goal is going to be the game winner. You also got to think if you get that first goal, if you're Lynchburg or Mary Washington, a beautiful run from Elise, you got to think whoever gets that first goal, that's going to spread out the other team a lot. It's going to force them to go upfield. So that first goal, it could cause a second one to come shortly after for the same team.
That's a great point. And you do feel like there's been a lot of tension defensively in the midfield. We've talked about that physicality. Both teams have remained pretty poised. We did mention it was a little quicker out of the gate to begin the second half. Oh, that's a golden run from Landell, and she is out. This is trouble for the Hornets. The shot, and Shepard right there. Oh, she'll want that one back. Had extra footsteps in front of her and fired a little too early.
Like you said, a beautiful run up the middle, beautiful pass. Just, I mean, almost a perfect pass, but just right at Shepard. So, I mean, those are the moments that you got to build off of. Obviously, as we see right here, right towards Shepard, a great opportunity. You got to build off of that. You can't get upset. Obviously, you want that to be a goal, but you got to keep moving forward and give yourself more opportunities like that.
The Hornets want to run on the other side. Pham now giving chase, far side. Defense once again a little bit quicker, and the foul is issued. Ella Fulmer, I don't think you can say got caught napping, but definitely in a spot that was tough to defend, and we know what happens when Landell is off to the races. Kick directed to the middle of the field. Lynchburg handles comfortably. Now Madeline Boyce wanting that extra tap. A sprint to the near side. Hornets maintain possession. This could be reminiscent of that game against Shenandoah where you feel like both teams traded blows. And it was that 89th minute where we saw the goal. 60 seconds to go. And Shenandoah found the game winner, 1-0 result. You just hope, if you're a Lynchburg fan, that history doesn't repeat itself. You'd like to go get that score earlier rather than later. Set piece and a good spot. Luna Den Hartzog loops it in. The header clears it out the back door. Ethan, one point about this Mary Washington defense. I mean, how quickly do they erase those set pieces? You see so many balls that are right in the middle of the box, and they don't stay there long.
Well, that's the athleticism and the height that you have on the defense, and obviously, you know, the point of a set piece is to draw up a play, cause some chaos in the box, much like Mary Washington did on their four corners in the first half. But when you have athleticism like that in the defense, I mean, it gives you, it eases the tension a little bit on your defense.
Backheel played in a really tough spot, and it files all the way through the box. Coaches out of their seats after what could have been that go-ahead tally.
And we've seen opportunity after opportunity for the Mary Washington Eagles, and you got to think eventually one of these, if you're Mary Washington, you got to think eventually one of these has to fall.
For Coach Olson and company, do you feel like 0-0 right now is where you want to be? You know, are you being urgent to get that goal early, or do you think you can ride this thing out?
I think a little bit of both. Obviously, you never want to draw, you never want a loss. You want to take the win, but with how your squad has been doing the last couple games, you've struggled a little bit. You need something going, and maybe a draw against a team as good as this. With the good flashes of football we've seen this entire game for Lynchburg, I think it is a little bit of a positive. But obviously, you are going to do what you can to go ahead and seal that win. So I think you are in a good spot 0-0. But also you have to take into account how well the Eagles have done this second half. I mean, we saw a really great opportunity for two great opportunities back to back that they just missed the sealing moment to score. So there are a lot of different outcomes that can happen with 0-0.
Still plenty of time for both sides, and here's Landell. Maybe it's now. Tries to go top shelf. Kate Shepard, acrobatics, keeping the Hornets all square here in the Hill City.
Talking about the athleticism for Mary Washington, can't forget about Kate Shepard, a beautiful save. I mean, that was top corner. The athleticism is there. Let's take another look. A beautiful shot from Landell, an even better save from Shepard.
It had velocity, but it was dipping down into that corner. Here's another sequence forming. This ball goes up right on the doorstep. Mary Washington wants the goal. Play on. And the Hornets sprint to the other side. Oh, that must have been a matter of inches.
We'll have Rog said just send it deep, reset everybody. These are look at the replay here. We see everybody point, every Eagle pointing to the ref saying that went in. But obviously tough angle for the referee and us up here, but more great defense from Lynchburg. We saw it in the first half with the first corner that the Eagles had. A lot of chaos, and we saw it right there again after a corner.
Oh, and here come the Hornets, humming on the attack, ready for the shot at the top of the box, and they lose possession. You would have needed VAR on the other side to decide it. And now as the Hornets move forward, you feel like it woke something up.
All these opportunities that the Eagles are getting, it's starting to burst up the tempo. Beautiful save. We get another look at Shepard's stretching save and Landell trying to make another run, but tempo was starting to increase. Teams are starting to get more and more desperate trying to find that goal. A great opportunity for Lynchburg right after the Eagles. You just got to give the ball off. I mean, you have 4v3, 5v3, you're up on numbers.
Royster lets this ball file through, and it goes all the way back to Kate Shepard. Don't get it twisted. In a game like this, no score on the board. There has still been pace that is bubbling up from the outset of this game, and the energy on full display now. Lynchburg has so much fresh ground in front. Morgan Oliver might have found it. Here's Madeline Boyce charging forward, and a deflection that'll seal a corner for Lynchburg.
Beautiful defense from the Eagles again. It seems like every opportunity is just being put to a halt from the Eagles, but this is great for Lynchburg. Obviously, you're not scoring, you're not putting any goals up on the board, but you're causing pandemonium on your offensive end, and eventually it's going to lead to something.
First corner of the night, here it is, right in the middle of the action, but the referee signals a foul. Frustration all around as Lynchburg thought they had the go-ahead tally.
That's a tough call to make. Obviously, Oren came out to punch the ball away. She's putting her body on the line. That's really rough. It looks like Madeline Boyce maybe caught a little bit of her. Not too sure. Again, it's tough to see up here, but these are great. This is great stuff we're seeing from the Hornets.
Definitely feels like Madeline Boyce wasn't the main culprit in that spot as Oliver hits the turf. Referee lets it play on.
And I agree with that call. Obviously, it's a physical play on Morgan Oliver, but you get the ball, and that's just the type of soccer that we're seeing from the Eagles.
Subs waiting on the sideline, but hard to imagine Lynchburg wants to break up the momentum that they have gathered. This has been a very solid 5 minutes and perhaps the most menacing they've looked all night. Now Mary Washington hoping to bite into their share of possession. Reversing the field. Now near side chance for Cassidy Shaw. Landell goes right behind Den Hartog. Tap forward and Royster is offsides. Flag goes up.
Almost a beautiful ball from Landell, just a little too early of a run.
This Lynchburg team had been very good defensively at Schellenberger Field until that Bridgewater game. They had outscored opponents 10-2 on the home turf. allowing just one goal in two separate games. Of course, Shenandoah and Washington and Lee. And then there was the four-piece put on by the Eagles on Saturday. They have looked a very different team as a trio of subs, 3-6-9 for Mary Washington, Abigail Knight, Naomi Knight, and Katie Britton.
And I think if you're the Eagles, you catch a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Lynchburg really been on the attack the last 10 minutes, and they've been doing a great job at it. So now, if you're Mary Washington, you get some fresh legs on, some new minds. As another Lynchburg player going down to the turf.
That was Lauren Warner, and I absolutely agree. Something is to change for the Eagles. The problem is you see some of their runs, like the one from Royster, where she was just offsides. They don't need a lot of time or a lot of space to try and get that ball forward.
Well, you can imagine with how good their defense has been, not just today, but all season. You got to imagine they're okay with soaking up all this pressure because you have players like Landell and Royster who have some speed, and you've got players on the bench that with all that depth that you have that can come on and just make a sudden impact. So you're okay to soak up this pressure and just work on the counterattack.
This time the ball played in. Got to be careful as Rogstad goes near side. There's so many sneaky attackers for this Mary Washington team. Everybody's starting to get involved as Cassidy Shaw gives it off to Landell. Ball just lingering in the box. Part two, here's Shaw. Cross, enters. Got to be careful now as Shepard goes upstairs. Took a step back, had to make sure she maintained her balance.
Yeah, great. Another great save from Shepard, keeping it out. I mean, all of her momentum was going into the goal. And it was a good shot, as you can see right there. It looked like it didn't go in, and obviously the referee, the line judge, was there just in case. But it was pretty, I think the referee was pretty confident that didn't go in.
We've entered the final quarter of the game, and you feel like if it's anything like these last 20 minutes, we are in for a treat. In a game that was essentially a slugfest in the first half, it's starting to turn into a high-speed chase. Lynchburg still has just one shot on the day. Formerly belongs to Ava Olson, as she was not far off, trying to go to that top crossbar. But you do feel like Lynchburg has created a lot of opportunities, some even stalled by the whistle on a corner kick. Mary Washington pressing high. Here comes Shaw. Ready to roll, looking for options. Momentarily keeping it herself now and sending it for Royster. Maddie Olson back on the field, started the second half on the bench. Now Morgan Oliver. What can she create in isolation? Got to imagine that's a handball, not called, as they play on. A lot of those sequences, sometimes if it doesn't disrupt the run of play, referee will let it go. Lynchburg trying to put all the foul narratives to rest. And what has transpired, just one win in the last 6 games. They have really put on a convincing performance today that they belong with some of the top teams on the East Coast. Here's a shot going the other side, and Landell can't redirect. That was a very high lofted cross.
A beautiful run at the goal, and the speed really being showcased this second half. Just a tad bit too late. If she's there a little bit early, she can get on top of that. We'll get a replay here. A beautiful cross in the far post. Just can't catch that corner for Landell. And this is really optimistic stuff for Mary Washington.
This is a team that has dominated in their last few games. And all of a sudden, you get another one that's really tight. Even look towards last game. No Eagle played over 75 minutes. 22 players saw the field, and 5 substitutes played over 50 minutes. That was because it was such a dominant affair. They end up getting a 4-0 win at St. Mary's. And, you know, all of a sudden, That's that type of play. You just feel like neither team today has really commanded what has been a back-and-forth storyline. Last game played at Mary Washington. St. Mary's actually a team that traveled here to Lynchburg for a men's NCAA tournament game. Aaron Oliver, great head coach up there in Maryland. Ball played forward. The tap from Warner was a little too late. And now Den Hartog pressed to the far other side, and Shepard will send it on its way. Mary Washington team that has never won a coast-to-coast conference title, trying to do it for the first time this year. Lynchburg has won a national title. They've handled business a few times in the ODAC. Of course, that was back in 2014. And, you know, a lot of the history involves a lot of success at home for Lynchburg. They've been a team that has been really good on Schellenberger. In fact, this is the first time that Lynchburg has lost 3 home matches in a season since 2007. They have just been dominant throughout the history. If you go back to a span from 2008 to 2014, Lynchburg won 79, 1, and 6 on Shelley.
I mean, that's legendary stuff. That's historic. And if you're Coach Olson and company and you're Coach Olson's players, you got to think, like, we're not only defending Shelley, we're defending the legacy on Shelley and everybody that's played before you and everybody that's played before them. It's amazing to be able to have the opportunity to play for a team like this, a program like this.
Well, and I don't think that this team is discouraged by the fact they have 3 home losses this year, because the record overall isn't too bad at 9-5-2. You've played a lot of tough teams right here on the home turf. Of course, Washington and Lee is one of those teams you expect perennially to be in the top 10 of the nation.
And again, you can go back to a couple of the games. Shenandoah is a great example where they were just a couple minutes of going from a loss just to a draw, which looks a lot better on the tables, but it's just some minor mistakes towards that end of the game. I mean, it was the 88th minute where Shenandoah were able to capitalize.
Morgan Oliver down behind the play. Ella Fulmer, slide tackle, and that was dangerous stuff. Referee will come out, and a yellow card issued. Free kick, and a vulnerable spot now in this Lynchburg defensive third.
Again, a dangerous place for a set piece, and we're going to have the coach trying to have a word with the referee, possibly trying to maybe get the only thing I can imagine is maybe a straight red, but I don't think that tackle would be considered for a straight red. It wasn't a complete goal-scoring opportunity for her on the wing, but I guess, you know, anything can happen here.
Well, and I don't think that it was necessarily just a straight run at the goal like you said, but it was one-on-one, and that typically will warrant the yellow. I think the referee got it right that time, and this is a spot where Lynchburg has played great defense for 75 minutes. They're going to have to muster up some even better play in the final few minutes. Here's Landell. Cross and swinging goes all the way through.
You can see the momentum has really shifted towards Mary Washington. Lynchburg really on the defensive end. Obviously, they're trying to cause some pressure in the midfield like they have done now, but really every time that they've gotten the ball on their defensive end, they've just tried to clear and get a complete reset.
See, that was more of an actually outswinging ball, and what's so interesting with Landell, you see so many of these attempts end up being like a line drive. We've talked about it earlier today, and teams have tested Lynchburg high. They've tried to get over the gloves of Kate Shepard, but Landell can just put it like a laser right into its spot.
And you go back to her one-on-one with the keeper. I mean, that was a tough shot. The ball, when she kicked it towards goal, was maybe about hip height, and that is tough to be able to put power on a shot like that.
Oh, that's a bad pass. And Elise Pham trying to move forward. But Mary Washington regathers comfortably. What could have been a disaster ends up being taken away for the moment. Here's Morgan Oliver. Goes to the other side. Here's Hannah Phillips, runs into trouble. And it's out for a Lynchburg throw.
Some mistakes from Mary Washington. Lynchburg trying to take advantage of them. We'll have Riley Wampler come onto the field for Ava Olson. Again, just trying to get some fresh legs onto the pitch, especially because you're on your offensive end now.
Strategic subs at this point of the match. And Erez Wampler sends the ball forward. Oliver had defense all around her. These are the chances you gotta prohibit. And Lynchburg able to get it back on a dime. Ball forward to Hannah Phillips, tripped up in the box, but away from the ball. A throw for the Hornets now.
And we're seeing a couple mistakes from the Eagles that we don't really see very often. And we haven't seen them all game, but a couple of them are starting to stack up and keep Lynchburg on this end, which just puts more and more pressure not only on your defense, but your goalkeeper.
Ball played into the box. Lynchburg lingering around in the right areas. And that was a nice tackle from Hannah Phillips. Other side of the field, here's the cross, and Orrin has to watch and gather on a bounce.
Really only 2 or 3 people in the box, and they're really on the far ends, and it's tough. Obviously, as a winger, when you cross that in, you want people to do what they can to get on the other end, but when you're in crunch time, I mean, we've got 13 minutes left, you don't want to put too much on the attack because like there, when it doesn't work out, that leaves a lot of open space out the field for a counter.
That might be how a goal is scored if we see one tonight on Schellenberger Field. Somehow Oliver all around and goes down to the turf again. Frustrating for the Lynchburg sideline, especially when she has had everybody around her throughout this game.
It just seems like a lot of the chances that Lynchburg has had, especially in this half, they've been one pass away, one short pass, just a little bit of vision away from finding the open attacker. And that was another opportunity. You saw Madeline Boyce on the near end. I mean, she was going on a run and just, and it's easy for us to say that because we're up here. We can see everything. They're down, they're field level. It's tough to see those opportunities.
Hard to tell if Abigail Knight got away with one in that case or if that was just not enough contact. And I think that was a spot where Oliver obviously has been heckled throughout this game. Probably trying to get any call she can. That one is a no-doubter. Madeline Boyce hits the turf. And another set piece for the Hornets.
This is another dangerous spot. I mean, you can loft one in and try and cause something. Just some redirections and hoping something goes in.
Then Hartzog, high flyer, and a perfect spot. Orrin went to a dive to get it out. Riley Wampler down in the box. Now Mary Washington charging the other way. Ball will roll down that near, or rather far touchline. Out for a Lynchburg throw. Wampler got up, but it was a moment where she was sitting right in front of the goalkeeper, Orrin, and had a collision right in the middle of the box.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful play from Orrin to recognize how deep that ball was going, and you have an opportunity to punch it out and putting your body on the line like that, and that just gives so much morale to your defense.
Here's another high steam attack. Washington going to the outside, and here's Cassidy Shaw. Redirects to the outside, and Shepard corrals.
We've seen a really great goalkeeping display from both ends. A great save from Shepard earlier, and that was another great job from Orrin, like we just stated, just being able to recognize that it was going that far and just to punch it out, putting bodies on the line. And this is amazing soccer that we're seeing.
Boyce couldn't possess cleanly. Now a battle in the midfield. Ava Olson goes down. Shaw, beautiful ball to Landell. Is this the moment? She gets it away. Shepard by the fingertips. How narrow are the margins for error? And Kate Shepard doing everything she can to keep Lynchburg in this game.
And we'll take a look at the replay. The speed from Landell, like you said, the window of opportunity was so slim, and the recognition from Shepard, it's been there all game. And just a fantastic, just an amazing display of goalkeeping from Shepard.
If that takes a deflection in the wrong direction, Mary Washington is still celebrating. Under 10 minutes to play. A scoreless draw right now if it holds on to the storyline we've seen all game. But what a riveting second half. Rogstad ready to charge. Sends a low cross that sneaks through, and the Hornets, oh, just barely missing. Mary Washington had their claim to fame on one side of the field, and the Hornets couldn't punch their ticket on the other.
My goodness, what an opportunity, just wide to the right. I mean, it was one-on-one with the keeper. We've seen it for both sides now. I mean, these teams, we talked about how they were throwing jabs early in the first half. They're throwing uppercuts. They're throwing punches. And eventually, you got to imagine one of these balls are going to slip through into the net.
Even in a non-conference affair, this has the energy and the makings of a conference final. It's just been back and forth. And, I mean, Ethan, you feel like both of these teams are playing and putting all their cards on the table, saying, you know what, let's go after it and try to win this thing.
Yeah, this is a great football game from both sides. This might be one of the best games we've seen Lynchburg all season. They're putting the pedal to the metal. They're going all out, and you got to love it. Especially, like you said, this has the feel of a conference championship right before the playoffs. That's exactly what you want if you're Coach Olson for your crew to going into a playoffs in about a week.
Just an unbelievable concentration amongst these two teams because both squads understand those conference tournaments are very close to arriving. This is when you got to play your best soccer of the year. As Ava Olson was getting stretched out. Looks like everything's okay for the midfielder.
Looked like maybe possibly got the wind knocked out of her. I mean, it's common, especially on turf. And it's easy to fall when you've had wet conditions all game. And with how physical this game has been also.
Mary Washington takes over possession. And Lynchburg still frustrated about it. We've seen a lot of those fouls called here in the second half. Other side of the field, Katie Britton. Ample space to try and operate and get the ball into the box, but better defense. Villarreal clears onto the track. Under 8 minutes to go.
It's getting to crunch time. One of these opportunities got to go in at some point. I mean, it doesn't feel like a 0-0 ball game, Evan. It feels like it's like 4-4, 5-5.
A lot of chances as this one will go out. Referee signals that it will likely be right along the flag for a throw. Eagles trying to get a few extra feet as they move up the line.
And this does feel like that Shenandoah game where you almost got to imagine time is ticking. We're at just under 7 minutes. There might be a last-minute goal that could decide, and we don't know what team is going to score. We don't know what's going to happen.
I think everybody here at Shelley is holding their breath. And everybody here inside this facility. We talked about the history at Shelley. They have been treated to one of the better games you'll see all fall.
got to imagine it's going to come down to what pass slips through the back line of the defense and who can put that away, because we've seen it a couple times. We've seen great passing from both squads. Landell, Oliver, they've had great opportunities, and it's really going to come down to finishing and who can have that opportunity.
Riley Wampler entering the area code, and the defense shepherds the ball to Orn. Now a smart play by that Mary Washington back line.
Yeah, really great job. I mean, you've got a speedy front line for Lynchburg's attack, and to be able to, again, box them out and just make sure your goalie knows that your defense has your back and giving you a lot more time.
Got to be careful. Morgan Oliver now moving forward. He goes out on that near side.
I think this pressure is something that Mary Washington wasn't expecting at all from this Lynchburg team, and Lynchburg, the Hornets, they're taking care of business so far.
Here's Rogstad, charging relentlessly, doing what she can, and the deflection earns a corner. This is Lynchburg's bread and butter, and they have a chance to use it to their advantage. You remember, Ethan, that last corner, before the referee signaled the foul, the ball was in the back of the net.
And moments like this, it's late in the ball game. You're going to try and speed everything up and have pretty much the exact same moment you had. It was the same corner, same opportunity.
Here it is, working to that far side. Orn loses it, and it's free in the box until she can get back to her position. Oh, wow, another deflection, and the Hornets just couldn't find it.
Just over 4 minutes. There you see a replay, just couldn't get on the end of it. Beautiful opportunity for Lynchburg again. Fulmer couldn't just get that final kick into the goal.
Felt like Fulmer has just been in the middle of the action the entire game. Talked about it on the offensive and defensive sides. Now Rogstad somehow squibs this one inbounds. Back to Landell, who hits the turf hard. And Lynchburg, after seeing all the calls on the other side, not loving that one.
Den Hartog really frustrated with the call. I think it was fair. You're going into the back of Landell, so I do think I think that's the right call.
One Landell, not the tallest player on the field either. And it looks like the referee is going to go and book the other coach. It's Dr. Todd Olson made his way all the way up to the midfield line. Yellow shown now for both head coaches today.
It really shows you that not only the players want to win it a ton, but these coaches, and they want to win it just as badly, especially this late in the season. A win here can just completely flip a season around, and it's something that this Lynchburg team needs.
Comes down to the final 3.5. Hornets have defended masterfully throughout this contest. You don't want it to go down to another final minute blow. Here's the chance across, slow swinging, and Den Hartog able to get it out. Can Lynchburg start the offense down the other side? A lot of attention in the midfield, and Morgan Oliver earns the call this time. 3 to go.
And everybody's tired. We've played over 85 minutes of soccer, and most of your starters are still in. You're trying to find a way to continue to go upfield. I mean, it's been back and forth, everybody just moving up and down the field. It's going to come down to who can catch that second wind.
Just a war of attrition here on Schellenberger Field today. Both teams know what it means. Look at the speedster Landell out in the far margins, now directing to the middle. Here's the chance. Lahoon ready, and Shepard down to the turf.
Another great opportunity for Mary Washington, snuffed out by Kate Shepard. She's done a fantastic job tonight.
Truly one of those games you've talked about, gutting it out and finding everything you can to get in the right spot. As it trickles all the way to Orn, sends the clearance out on the far side. But it comes down to everybody's effort, and Kate Shepard, 8 saves on all 8 shots faced today. I mean, it just feels like that's the type of affair you've seen. And Orn on the other side hasn't made a single save. Chance for Landell, sneaking forward, looking for company. She has Shaw out wide. Back to the top of the box, and Rogstad better defense.
And what a great read. You're all on the back foot. Your defensive line is all going back, and you just notice a sudden tweak in the hips that shows that she's going to try and cut to the outside. A great read by Rogstad.
Down to 75 seconds. Now it's not a question of when your next opportunity is, but if. Long shot was ensuing, and it's not taken cleanly. Ellen Shine goes to the far side. The final minute has arrived. Who will muster up the late game heroics as Den Hartog sends it on its way? Now it's down to the Lynchburg defense. Slow roller, middle of the box, and Landell still has space. Hornets continue to move around the carousel. The defense all over the place. Down to 25 seconds, got to get something soon. And the clearance lofted up back to midfield.
Got to imagine they're going to send everything forward. This is the last opportunity for the Eagles.
Is there a late game heave, or is this where the story ends? Boyce tries to send it forward. Oliver is tripped up right at midfield as the ticks will expire. What a game. It feels like there's so much left to discover, but our story rests at a 0-0 draw, and Ethan, you couldn't have asked for anything else.
Both teams gave it their all. Coaches gave it their all, both receiving yellow cards. But, I mean, this was a beautiful display of football for both of these teams. I mean, it was back and forth the entire time. We came in expecting Mary Washington were going to dominate in possession, and Lynchburg were going to have to rely on the counterattack. It was completely almost the opposite, where it was both teams relying on the counterattack. Both teams playing great defense, both goalkeepers doing an amazing job keeping their team in it.
A lot of hugs and exchanges after this game, as there's a lot of Virginia representation on the Mary Washington roster, a lot of former high school teammates and club players, but it did not feel that friendly in the 90 minutes that we watched here on Schellenberger Field. The final regular season home game ends in a 0-0 draw, and as you look at some of the highlights, we talked about physicality for the first 60 or so minutes. The final half hour just felt like it was an action movie. Back and forth we went.
Yeah, it was a beautiful game. There's so much that we could say. I mean, you got to tip your cap. Well, cap I say because I'm a baseball player, but you gotta just recognized game. Kate Shepard did a fantastic job, and if you're Mary Washington, you gave it your all. You gave her everything, and she did a great job. I mean, Lendell, really beautiful shots towards Shepard, but just a great display of athleticism.
Hard to really unpack everything, and it's been a long season. It's been up and down. Lynchburg started in a fantastic fashion here at Schellenberger Field. In the first 4 games at home, they didn't allow a goal. Then it's been this skid where they've had just 1 win in 6 games. Is this the turning point? They get Hollins on Thursday, the ODAC tournament on Saturday. I mean, this Lynchburg team looked night and day different from what we've seen here in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think this could be a turning point. I agree. Obviously, you want the win, but this is a non-conference game towards the end of your season. You want to win, but it doesn't change much on the tables. And going into that Hollins game where you're expecting a win, you're expecting a good amount of goals. This could be a good turning point for Lynchburg going into the playoffs. This could be the type of game that you needed. It could be that get-right game.
It's going to be fun to see what happens in the next few weeks if Lynchburg's on the road for the ODAC tournament, and this is perhaps the final home broadcast. Big thanks to you for staying tuned throughout this year. It's been a fun one and a new set of faces for this Lynchburg team as they've continued to move forward. But overall, here at Schellenberger Field, the final scene, it's a scoreless draw, 0-0. But a big thanks to you to make sure you've been here along for the journey. Everybody in the production crew today, a fantastic job as always, and a big crew for Vannon, Manu, Tristan, Jonas, Grayson, And JP, you feel like it's been a night to remember in the Hill City. On behalf of my big broadcast partner, fantastic friend Ethan Moratsky, I'm Evan Gates saying so long from the Hill City.